Okay then, do you just want to introduce yourself?
My name is Charlotte Corney and I'm the director of the Isle of Wight Zoo.
It's very nice to meet you. What appeals to you the most when working for the zoo?
I suppose what appeals to me is the hope that the work that we do at the zoo and that my input into operating the zoo helps to make a future a little bit better for wildlife. Wildlife at the moment have got really challenging times globally ahead of them, and our premise is to ensure that we connect as many people as we possibly can to wildlife here, exotic animals, obviously tigers and lemurs and exotic creatures, but with the desire then that people go away and actually do something to better the lives of wildlife in this country that's desperately in need of help as well.
Okay. I noticed that you promote your tigers a lot on the zoo. Is there a particular reason for this?
Yeah, tigers have always been the flagship species at the zoo since we took it over in the late 1970s, and we had our first tiger arrive from Twycross Zoo. That was a female called Tamira, later joined by a male called Sher Khan from Blackpool Zoo, and they had 30 cubs here, so that was actually a world record number of cubs born in a zoo anywhere in the world at the time. That became really our main sort of area of work, was in the conservation and care of tigers, and that's continued right through to contemporary days. So it's what we're known for. People know us for walking tigers on the beach and that sort of thing, and in more recent years we've been rescuing tigers, so tigers coming from circuses, from private ownership, and just surplus stock from zoos as well. But I think it's synonymous with the Isle of Wight Zoo. If you say Isle of Wight Zoo, you're kind of saying tigers in the same sentence.
How many of them do you own at the moment, the tigers?
We currently have 7 tigers at the zoo. At one point I think we had 24 tigers here many years ago. Tigers that we have got now are relatively old, even by zoo standards, so we're committed to making sure we look after them for life. They get a fantastic life here with us, so they're really sort of wrapped in cotton wool, and they will live out their days here. But yeah, in previous years we've had far more tigers because we've had a lot more sort of rescue requirement and so forth.
Okay. Do you currently have a breeding programme in place with the tigers or with any other animals in the zoo?
We don't currently breed our tigers, or in fact any of our big cats. We have a very strict policy, in fact, not to breed them, which is slightly peculiar, I suppose, for people to understand on the surface, because we're thinking about an animal here which is critically endangered in the wild, and the populations are sliding in the wild. But in human care, actually, tigers are doing rather well. There's rather a lot of them. So what we need to do is make sure that we're not breeding tigers that are, for example, from unknown bloodlines, that have not got pure genetics. And all of our tigers here are what we call hybrids. They're mixtures of different types of tigers, with different races of tiger. So they're not eligible to be part of any international breeding programme. We do, however, work hard to breed our lemur species. We have got a little baby actually just standing somewhere behind you now with the mother, and she was born in April, March-April time, a black lemur. So we're very committed to breeding, but only when the animals are on specialist breeding programmes.
Okay. Aside from tigers, what other animals do you currently own?
We have, aside from tigers, we have lions and we have jaguars in terms of the big cats. We've just recently taken on a confiscated Jeffroy's cat, a small wild cat from South America. We also have a very large collection of different species of lemur, from tiny little mouse lemurs right up to the big rough lemurs that you'll probably hear, they're very noisy. We have different monkey species, we have spider monkeys, capuchins, we have corpus, we have raccoons, we have skunks, and then we have invertebrates and reptiles and all sorts of other things. So quite an eclectic collection of animals. Oh, and meerkats. Shouldn't forget the meerkats. They've not been here for long, and of course everybody's favourite. So yes, we have meerkats and porcupines too.
Oh, good. Do you have future plans to get any more animals in for the foreseeable future, or are you happy as the way things are?
If you asked our keeping staff, are we going to be getting any more animals? Of course, there's a list a mile long. It's like a keeper's sort of wish list of animals that they'd love to get. One of my, in fact, head of animal department recently went to a conference and came back saying we must get bonobos, which are kind of a higher level chimpanzee, if you like. But we have a very, very strict collection plan, so we don't just take in any different sorts of animals, they have to meet the criteria of our collection plan. And yes, we will be gaining more diverse species, more small mammals in fact, keeping a core collection of big cats, but making sure the animals that we have here are good for connecting people to wildlife. That's one of the primary sort of priorities for us.
Okay. Do you have any future plans in place to upgrade the facilities in the zoo? So, apart from the meerkat programme that you showed us earlier, any others that you've got planned to upgrade?
From a personal point of view, there's an awful lot that I'd like to do in terms of upgrading, both for visitor facilities and for the animals. The animals' needs will always, of course, come first for animal welfare purposes. We have to prioritise that, and I think the visiting public do understand that. They see that the small profit we make every year goes back into upgrading current facilities or building new areas for animals. So yes, there's a constant programme of that. We have got a new enclosure to build for the Jeffroy's cat, and all sorts of general sort of improvements to make. And where possible, in fact, we've just brought in a new education centre for schools, so that's been a big thing for us, making changes in the cafe, shop, so all these things are ongoing. And also the front of the zoo. If I had £1 for every time somebody said to me, you know what you need to do at the front of that zoo, you need to put some artwork up on the floor. We are doing that, but all these things have to sort of wait in line, and it's all down to budget. And at the end of the day, we have a tough winter. We have a winter where we see a few people, and we've got lots of hungry mouths and lots of animals to keep snug and warm. So we've got to be careful with the way that we spend our money.
Do you believe that there are any advantages you may hold over Amazon World and the Seaview Wildlife Encounter to being the best animal attraction on the Isle of Wight?
I think that with the original zoo on the Isle of Wight, the zoo came into being in the 50s, so it's the oldest animal collection, private animal collection. And I feel we're very strongly positioned. We've got a fantastic team here, and I can't stress that enough. We wouldn't be what we are without the team of people that we have. Obviously, we've got fantastic animals. We love them to death. We're very biased, and we're constantly energised to keep working harder and harder to make the zoo better. I think though that every wild animal collection's got a different purpose and a different job to do. We're doing different things from the other animal collections on the island. Combined though, on a global scale, we're all doing the same thing. We're all working for the preservation and conservation of wild animals, and we have to keep that in mind. Yes, it's tough times. Everyone's basically trying to get a bit of the pie. People that come over to the island, we've only got a certain market, only within certain months of the year, realistically, to get people in through the gate. So there is, of course, always going to be a degree of sort of competition, but we just keep our head down in a way and do our thing and try and do it well.
Okay. Do you believe the zoo's location next to a beach is a good thing?
Do I believe the location is a good thing? Yeah, I guess it's like anything. It's there are strengths and weaknesses, perhaps even within the same arena. Location being on the island, of course, is fantastic in that the island's an amazing place. But the weather's not been very good, so we're suffering with maybe not so many people coming as we'd like. Being right next to the beach for us, superb. And of course in the eastern side of the island where we get the majority of the tourist market, then we can't moan about that. Coming to work every day and seeing the sights that we see, we do take it for granted, but it is an amazing location. And of course in days gone by we enjoyed romping around on the beach with the tigers and taking them swimming in the sea. Those days are over. We're just coming to view, I think, at the moment. Diamond in fact is a tiger that I handwritten and used to go walking on the beach.
I was going to ask this, but when I went on your website, I noticed that a photo of, I think it was you, with one of the tigers, was actually photoshopped.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen? at all with you or any of the other keepers taking a tiger on a walk along the beach, or is that not possible?
Yeah, you're referring to the April Fools, obviously, that we did with the county press, which went down a storm, and this was a photo of myself. I was actually taking one of the staff for a walk on the beach, but he was photoshopped out, and in his place, by his wife actually, Karen, who's a photographer, photoshopped in Aisha. Aisha did used to go walking on the beach, but she hasn't been down for a walk on the beach since she was about 2 years old, and she's now 15. So no, times have changed. I think that in those days are, sadly, from a romantic point of view, over. What we found quite interesting about the campaign, if you like, was that so many islanders were so relaxed about it. They all said, oh, it's absolutely great, we'd love to have been there and seen it. There was no sense of fear or, you know, any kind of caution that actually maybe taking a full-grown tiger for a walk on a beach with the lead that you wouldn't take a chihuahua out on was maybe a little bit risky. There seemed to be none of that, so that surprised us. We thought there might be a bit of panic, but completely reversed.
Okay, and just to round this off, is there a good atmosphere for everyone working at the zoo? Such as, is there a good sense of teamwork for everyone?
It's a really important question actually about teamwork, because a zoo is it's kind of a weird place really if you think about it. Within a zoo, you've got staff that work in the shop, that work in the cafe, that work in the education, that work in the research, that work in the maintenance, work in the gardens, work in the offices, obviously work looking after the animals, work in the finance. You've got all these different, very disparate in a way, occupations coming together under one roof, working for one purpose, which is to bring in money and care and expertise to look after the animals. And it's not necessarily easy always to get people to work together and to see themselves as being not in competition with each other, you know, being together for a common purpose. It's taken a little while, and it's not necessarily always been plain sailing, but we feel that we're now there. And the team, it doesn't matter if they're working in the cafe, you know, they're just as concerned if an animal's ill as the keepers, and the animal staff support the trading staff. We have an operations manager who came in a couple of years ago, and he's done a fantastic job actually of stabilising some aspects of the teamwork and bringing everything together to help me to realise, you know, my overall vision for the zoo. But none of that, you know, not even on a daily basis, could be achieved without the commitment and, as you say, everyone working together and in tough times too. So yeah, no, the answer to your question is yes, we've got a happy team. Always going to be days when people haven't mown and grown, and obviously the weather's it's something we can all moan about at the moment. But generally speaking, these are vocational people. They work for very little money often, and they work very, very hard. So I'm very lucky.
Thank you very much for that. It was a pleasure interviewing you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along.